Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the stage, and I'm with esteemed colleagues and clients. Today we're going to have a chat about the power of collaboration, how that works in the holistic phases of design, right through to completion, and we'll get to Najee as he takes over in operations. Interesting, he's sitting on the end. And we'll bring in modular methods of construction into that discussion. Firstly, guys, it'd be interesting for you guys to just understand and just tell the audience about your understanding of collaboration in the first instance. Short introduction of what you think. Ahmed, why don't you go first?
Sure. I think collaboration in essence is getting all the stakeholders involved. I think we have a nice group sitting here, designer, developer, operator, contractor. The concept of involving everyone, as I like to say it in a statement, or letting everyone have skin in the game, I think provides for a good way of everyone collaborating. Contractor understanding how important it is to have time delivery, operator getting involved in the early stage of design. I think it's just having that all the stakeholders wrapped up from an early stage all the way to completion and opening is what I would consider a good way of everyone getting involved and collaborating across.
Excellent, excellent. Sinclair?
I think one of the most important things about collaborating is have an open mind about, when you approach any project, not to come preloaded with any specific ways to do it, because one of the key issues with working in the Middle East is a very dynamic environment. There's always new players coming in, and so to maintain an open mind about taking on board ideas from others and so forth, vice versa. So I think it's a very important issue.
Excellent. Obviously, David, from an architectural perspective.
Yeah, definitely a question I always ask when we start the new project: what can we learn from our partners? And we all brought up to do things in a certain way, but I think being open-minded and listen to your collaborators, listen to other project team members is key to final delivery, because every project we do is very different, and we must kind of understand each other to get them in the same pace, same wave, to understand that it's not delivery by one party, it's delivery common, and we need to share the common goals. And I think being open-minded and kind of understand each other, new ways of delivering things, especially in the new region, is key. And I think it's a constant learning curve, and then more of us going to be open to understand and learn from each other. It's going to be easier to collaborate in the early stage, and more people we're going to get in the beginning, in the inception of the project, open-minded and listen to each other. It's a success ingredient for the good and successful project.
Absolutely. Najee, finally.
From our point of view, I think what we realized at some point during development of our projects is that our product, whatever we sell, is a hotel. And to be able to sell the product, we have to build it and finish it. So the only way for us is positive collaboration with all the stakeholders. We try as much as possible sometimes to be mediators between different parties if we can. Because our aim is to open the hotel, and I even tell my team members, we cannot, for example, reject a submission. We need to say why we are not happy with what we received in terms of drawings or shop drawings or whatever it is, and then we need to push it forward. We have to always keep pushing it forward, because our business is not design of hotels. Our business is not let's say, technical services. Our business is hotels and hospitality. If we don't have a product, we have nothing to sell. And that's why we should focus on collaboration and finishing.
I guess that's probably the most interesting point, that it's the reason that we're all here, right? We're here to build stuff, get it into operation, get it working. Ahmed, in your business, you've obviously worked on a significant number of projects that are starting to shape the Saudi's Vision 2030. Have you got any specific examples of how you've collaborated across the piece, and demonstrate where that collaboration has come in to make a positive change?
Absolutely, both in the private sector and the government sector, semi-government, PIF-related companies. where we, as a contractor, is asked to, participate in the development of the project. So we're asked to get involved in the co-development of the project, perhaps an investment stake, and that allows us to collaborate with all the relevant stakeholders to adhere to the two most important KPIs, which is time and cost. So we've had a number of successful stories, be it in hospitality assets or residential assets, where we get involved in understanding the development cycle and asked to participate in the investment. So we're actually incentivized not only as a contractor to deliver and realize our profit gains, but actually be involved in the investment and the return of investment of that development. So it's more long-term than just the short-term construction period of 2 to 3 years. And it's been very, very successful.
Excellent. You mentioned earlier about skin in the game.
Yes, that's exactly
That
what I
seems
meant.
to be your mantra, right? How do you think that makes a difference by fully involving people with their cash in their hand?
Absolutely. It's the contractor realizing it's not only the contract that is at gain, it's realizing that delivering the asset, as Najee mentioned, and it being operational is part of where the contracting company now makes its actual bottom lines and profits, and not just the contract itself where I'm just asked to build and leave. And that's where the contractor becomes incentivized to not be, as some would note, be claim-oriented or try to delay the project. The incentive would be to get the project done on time at the quality required for the operator to then, hand over and start operating and generating the income it requires and the revenue it's expected to make.
Yeah. David, you talk about success and collaboration. In terms of where things have maybe not gone so well, you've delivered many projects over a significant number of years. How have you overcome any hurdles to collaboration not necessarily working, and how do you think we can set ourselves up better to succeed in the future?
Definitely. It's many examples, unfortunately, that just happen to be the different team members coming at different stages of the project. And it's not anybody else's fault, but just cannot disclose, but we're working on a project currently in Saudi. Some of the team members been assigned lately, just the sheer luck. And then this what's causing us to go back and rethink that why I believe it's better that we all starting in the inception of the project together, same pace, and we do spend time to kind of understand each other. That's the key to me, to kind of understand what operator is looking for, what contractor is looking for, what is owner looking for, what the guests are we designing and building these hotels are looking for, and then create a sort of like a prescription for the project which is individually made. So it's not meant to be that the prescription we have in UAE, it works in Saudi or vice versa. So it's a special prescription needs to be designed by all team members in the beginning. And this prescription can be alternated and then tweaked along the side if somebody is missing. But I think key element is to understand each other and well understand each other, why they are kind of negating their agenda and why they're looking to do the certain way, and kind of adapt as we go along. That to me, that there's a key element to success.
Absolutely. Najee, obviously you've been involved in multi-party transactions over the years. How do you encourage team working, collaboration between all of those various different members? Again, getting back to the success factor, how do you, as the operators coming in at the back end of the thing, how do you put that all together?
It's funny, it sounds like we are doing marriage counseling. Like between contractors, consultants, and operators, we're doing this marriage counseling. It's all about, taking care of each other, listening to each other, maybe communication is key, but it's true. Same way as any two parties trying to do something, achieve something, we try to kind of, as I said, be the mediator, but at the same time, we kind of try to bring a mature conversation to every exercise we are doing. Because you see, the problem with the project is that people think that if I have a nice perspective, that's it, I have a beautiful hotel. In my opinion, the hotel is beautiful only when it opens, if it opens based on all the quality standards that we have are all pushing for the right materials, the right finishes, the right techniques, the right MEP systems in the back, all has to work. And that's why actually hospitality projects are complex. All these elements have to work together, because when I open my shower, I need hot water. When I hopefully when I start operating my kitchen, it has to function because my guest is waiting. The elevators cannot stop at any point in time. This is a living machine 24 hours a day. So what we try to say all the time is that the life of the hotel starts when all of you leave the room. And unfortunately, we are left with our owner to make this happen. And that's why we have, let's say, we invest a lot of energy and time and effort, especially being a regional brand, in collaborating with the right people first, then with these people trying to find the ultimate solution for every problem we face along the way. And we kind of build on our experience. So I've been with the group since 2005. The hotel that opened since I joined are around 50, 55, but we have worked on maybe 100 of projects. So every time we start again, we try to build on what we did before. And at some point, there's a reflex that you build, in your own system as an operator. You know that this consultant is going to be a headache. You know that this contractor, is going to be a very good contractor. And you start working according to that, And sometimes you have to part ways. We were talking about marriage counseling. Sometimes marriage counseling is for you to say goodbye to the other person. Sometimes we have to part ways, and it's okay, But what I'm trying to say is that this group of people have to work together, and this synergy has to work, or else, we talked about it, I think, previously, the project can be open at large, as we say. It will never end. We talked about the contractor hijacking the project at some point in time if it doesn't work. So all these things we try to avoid.
Excellent. We continue to talk about marriage. Marriage sort of equals trust. Sinclair, communication and trust go hand in hand. In terms of your experience of the development process, what experience do you have of communication and trust in that aspect?
I think ultimately when you win a project at the start, there's trust. Primarily your consultant's ability, data engineering in our case, to deliver. So there's you're beholden to that service, that ability, that need to deliver on that initial outlay. So as consultants, you're driven to achieve that. Deliver on that promise of that trust. The collaboration, you mentioned about the marriage, the honeymoon period at the start, of course, and where you trust, you don't question, but you ultimately have to deliver on your promises as a consultant. If not, it's just not going to work out. The collaboration and trust. When we spoke earlier, I think one of the other key issues of collaboration is compromise. That at any given time of the process, in order to get the resolution, generally you have to compromise, all parties at some time. So I think that's another key issue.
Excellent. In terms of that compromise piece and the trust, we do have to try and formalize that in some way, shape, or form. Ahmed, in terms of your experience, is there any way that the word trust can be written into a contract? Or a contractor or procurement method that gets you to that point that there's an element of collaboration and trust in the same place?
Absolutely. I think it even goes beyond to what gets written in the contract between two parties. And going back to what I mentioned earlier is, if everyone is incentivized towards a common goal, that trust and that power of collaboration, in essence, actually does happen. Again, just to your point on procurement, which again, is important when it comes to governance and standards on how to do things and to ensure that everything or everyone is compliant, there must be certain, rules or conditions that need to be applied. But yes, we've seen that happen and get implemented successfully. There are procurement methods where things could be direct and open about how a contract gets set, how a contractor gets paid, and how this power of collaboration in essence get done right across all stakeholders.
Yeah.
Just a simple example where if a contractor is a co-investor in a project on a development, he's asked to have a say in certain things, perhaps when it comes to design. But if there is a claim or a variation order, that becomes a board decision where a contractor is not asked to participate to avoid any conflict of interest. So it does work. There are ways around it. There are clauses in contracts that can be put where everyone is incentivized towards a common goal, yet we still work through governance and things of that matter.
Yeah. David, in terms of the ecosystem that Ahmed's described, is that in terms of how you deliver your lead consultancy services, is there examples of your experience in that way?
Definitely, I would highlight that while we start and understand which part of the world we're working on it, first thing I would definitely ask the question is, who do you think we can deliver this? And who is the operator, who is the contractor, who is the other parties, the stakeholders that come work with us? And one of the key elements they always wanted to understand, to design in a way that it can be built. And design in a way that can be maintained, and the operator has no hard time to maintain a property and deliver the amazing product. Us designing, staying on a paper, it's not something that we look for. We look for something that it's realistic, it can be built, but more importantly, it can be operated, it can be maintained, and can be delivering the profits and experience to our guests. And to do that, I think the deep understanding and a knowledge, the best way of delivering the project that's sustainable to the contextual context we are delivering the project is a key. To understand what do we need to do and what's the best method that can be built in a specific country, and who is the operator and what's the key elements we need to give the operator to highlight, and how do we give this knowledge that us and contractor know and transfer to the operator maybe 2 years, 1 year ahead of opening, so they can take the knowledge that we have built in and they can carry on with the project and operate and deliver something that we'll be very proud for, So to me, the key is to understand the strength and ability of the chain that is delivered in the specific country. And then that's how we tailor our design to, specifically to the contractor and operator's needs.
Excellent. It brings it neatly onto a nice point, actually, Najee. That knowledge base is transferred onto a project, but how does it transfer into multiple portfolio of projects, like the Rotana rollout program? How do you make sure that you capture that information? Is it something that you would work with one single contractor, one single developer, or do you just make sure that you capture the information neatly yourselves?
So by nature, we cannot work with one contractor throughout all our projects because we have different developers that we work with, and we have different regions and countries and like jurisdiction that we work within. So, but we try to do repeat work with good contractors, and that's why sometimes, that's why we try to say to the contractor, the win is on the long term, not the short term. So let's really prove to each other that we can do a nice project, a good project, because we're gonna get more, and we're gonna get other projects in different formats, whether serviced apartments or hotels or 3-star hotels. But this collaboration is a long-term collaboration. We are talking about a collaboration within one project, but the way we see it is a collaboration within our portfolio of projects, with the consultants and the contractors. That's why we have the recommended list of consultants, contractors, and the red flag list of consultants and contractors. And this list, of course, is always updated. On the subject of the knowledge, we always update our guidelines. That's number one, because again, with everything that's happening in technology and all these newcomers, all the startups even that are in town, we cannot work the same way. We cannot think the same way. The materials are changing. The way we are building, the fit out is changing. You know, we used to work with solid wood veneers. Now HPL is almost everywhere, you know. So we try to update our guidelines. We try to kind of move this knowledge to the developers, because at the same time, I think there's a party missing in this conversation, who is the developer, the person who pays the money, you know. And these people kind of dictate also how we react to material changes, to claim orders, to variations, to delays, and all that. So we try to kind of bring all this knowledge to the developers first, because sometimes this is the one that we need to educate first, and then to the team players who are the contractors and the consultants, because we expect that they have built hotel projects before, they have designed hospitality projects, and they know kind of the language we are talking about.
Excellent. In terms of when you get involved in the design process, when do you think an operator should get involved?
From day one.
Only day one?
Yeah.
Excellent. So look, I think in
Day zero.
Zero, even better. It's evident from the cradle to grave design process that collaboration is essential for success. Moving on a little bit into the modularization, the modern methods of construction, which are becoming more and more prevalent nowadays. Ahmed, in terms of the collaboration between not just designers, but the manufacturers, the modular guys, and the contractors and subcontractors, what do you think the key differences are in that modularization space versus traditional construction on-site delivery?
Absolutely. I think before dwelling into that question, just capturing on Najee's words on repetition, I think modularization, you know, can be formed from repetition. The concept of it is repeating something over a number of times in a production line just to get it done. And, you know, be it the 50 hotels in Rotana or any developer, any operator out there with the number of keys that need to be done within a short period of time, we could look at modularity before we look at modern methods of construction. And that itself could impact cost, could impact quality positively, of course, when we look at it. Moving from conventional to modern methods of construction typically involves monitoring or looking further into your supply chain, and how is it that you could have something repeated over a period of time done within the same quality standards. We're seeing this happening, be it in the core and shell element of developments, be it in the finishing, being in the MEP. I think we were talking with Sinclair earlier on the MEP corridors, where you have everything within your MEP first and second fix get done all offsite and just delivered. So yes, it is happening. And again, it touches on carbon footprint, sustainability, and all of these aspects. And it does ensure quality standards are being met, because you're able to monitor the delivery of the project offsite, and it's just the transportation and delivery being done on-site then.
Cool. Sinclair, in terms of how you guys have to change your skill sets to match modular and off-site manufacturing, what are you guys doing to make sure that you're ready to address that?
Yeah, I mean, been in the kingdom for 4 years. I think that the pace of change is rapid. Yeah. For a consultancy that that's been in the kingdom for 20 years, it's no longer acceptable to do this one like the last one. We have to evolve for all of these projects. There's we've been party to numerous studies on different types of modular systems, some more complex than others. We've done work with Roshan, for example, where the heavy focus, I think, Roshan are doing more units than any other PIF entity, and it's in this instance it was precast, and precast is simple, and I think that having sat in a few presentations over the last 48 hours, no disrespect to some of the technologies that are so advanced and so forth, but ultimately we're here to do a job, all of us, over the next few years, which is to build an awful lot of real estate. And in order to do that, sometimes the modular systems don't need to be that complex in order to achieve that target, particularly when there's a lot of complicated ecosystem to get a modular system over the line. Not just within the team. You mentioned, Najee was saying there about missing the developer, but being the the consultancy, the local AOR, to get a lot. We're obliged to make sure that whatever is coming to the table, it could come from. If we're lucky enough to have a contractor there from you mentioned, if we had our way, we'd have the contractor there from day one as well. So, but it's about the approvals that associated with these modular systems. Fire engineering, for example, in the region is really, really strict. All the stuff that happened in the UAE over the last few years has had a great effect on some would say it's negative in terms of time, but any of these systems that need to get approved, they're coming in. I spoke to a gentleman earlier, Peter, from a system in Canada, a lightweight steel system. I was just saying, look, fire is one of the main drivers here to get that system tested. And so sometimes it's not necessarily the most advanced thinking. Another guy I spoke to yesterday from a very simple application of AI technology in terms of, I know I'm going slightly off a beaten track here, but just to illustrate the point, this system is simply about checking the amount of garbage it's thrown away. It's a camera, and so very simple application. So the same thing about sometimes it's a precast system. It's a precast system that's done, and it's done really well, and it's kept down to a low number of modules. Then you get the benefit of it. We're doing a project just now where it's vernacular architecture. So it's not just one of the key things about the kingdom is it's neat to hold on to the past and address the past with the architecture. So there's a lot of vernacular styles that are going around the kingdom, and so the balance to do something which has historically been built by hand, whether it's mud, plaster, mud bricks and so forth, but build it in a fast way, but it still looks like it's been done. So something will change over the lifespan of that project, even if it's a Najee mud applied render. Well, when the said developer worked out how much mud applied render they were going to need to do across all their projects, there weren't enough of these skilled guys, nor the mud to do that. So then a system was developed, and they had to speak to the various suppliers to come up with something that, okay, if you looked at it from 5 meters away, it's not mud render, but ultimately if you're 15 meters away, then it still looks like the real deal. So again, there's a compromise of because there's a heritage consultant, but he's putting his hands up in there because you can't use that because so there's an example of compromise. So it's not always about the highest technology. It's about practical application.
Absolutely.
And getting everyone to buy into it.
David, Sinclair touched on scale when we consider the giga programs, but not just the giga programs, the mega programs as well. How do you believe modern methods of construction will come in to positively benefit that, or what might the challenges be from your perspective?
I think, again, it all comes down to being in the same pace than everybody else. I mean, modern method construction starts with the modern method of designing, and I think getting all the stakeholders into the platform, they understand the process of design, how it's designed, and everybody has an opportunity to input in a design process and modernize the system in a way that they all contribute towards the end product, but they see the process along the way, and they can impact and influence the process, whether it's not going in the right direction. So choosing the construction methodology is all based on the digital process that design is evolving around now. So we all think digitally now. We can arrange all our design methodology, transfer to contractor. Contractor can create the building digitally and transfer to the operator, and operator can use the digital platforms to kind of operate and maintain the hotel. So it all starts to create a very modern way of looking at design process. So everybody gets on the same platform and everybody sees the end product. So we involve the operator and kind of guide them the platform we can deliver into the process, and that is us starting it, and then contractor continuing, and then the maintenance team and enforcing, and then operator lives with it. And this methodology allows us to change, tweak, and amend as we go along, and this is the kind of basis that in today's modernity, we can account every single construction method or the material alongside from the very, very beginning to the very end of the product. So the operators can do the stock of the items and understand the maintenance of the project. They understand how much was used and how much they need to kind of maintain the product. And it's a great way to get everybody on the same platform and understand that modern design construction starts with a modern design methodology. And that methodology involves all the members and the stakeholders in the process.
Absolutely. Najee, David raises some great points about the future of construction in terms of how modularization might be able to support the development of your programs, taking that back to brand guidelines, brand standards, brand specifications, but also material and product selection in the future. What's your view on how that will adapt and develop over the years?
So again, going back to the first few minutes of the conversation, the task is simple. We need to build a hotel on time, on budget, to a certain quality, and basically we need to go from A to B on budget, on time, and with quality. Whatever gets us there is welcome. Sometimes, we get into projects where new technologies become procrastination, and new technologies allow for delays, and we need to put the project on BIM, and it becomes too complicated for what we are trying to achieve. So we try to say always, yes, we are very open to changing our guidelines and our way of thinking to new technologies, whether during construction or after. So cloud kitchens, seamless, let's say, entry to seamless check-ins and all that. But at the same time, we need to focus on the target. The target is to build a hotel that's going to be a successful venture to us and our developers. If the new methods of technology help us get there faster and in a better way, they are more than welcome. And I'm sure what David and everybody said is very relevant to what we are trying to achieve. For example, in London, we just announced recently, we are building our first couple of hotels, and it's going to be based on modular. But before we decided on that with the developer, we made sure that the facility is ready to take on the thousands of rooms that we are talking about. We are ready to understand this concept and work with it. So we had sessions with the contractor to understand what is modular, what we can do and cannot do with modular. Because I don't know it was my first time, for example. There's a certain way how you do even your fire rating. There's a certain way how you design the segmentation between the different rooms. How you open doors between different rooms in a modular system, if the whole thing is modular. There's a certain way how you transport it from, let's say, Dubai to Doha, Yep. And all this has to be factored into the design. And it will all impact how it is going to look like. So understanding the technologies, understanding what is it going to impact our let's say product or our technical guidelines is very important for us to adopt or not these technologies. And at the end of the day, there's someone paying, as we said. If this person is also has an open mind and has a willingness to pay, then we have a winning formula. Like you are achieving a good product with new methods of construction. That's the best probably way forward.
There's some really good points there, Ahmed, in terms of technology for the future. From your perspective as a business that's delivering modular solutions, what do you see the major advancements are coming in the future that are going to support collaboration across the full design piece?
I think the technology would start from the design element, essentially. I think Najee mentioned, BIM modeling. Instead of, doing drawings on a 2D basis, having all the stakeholders involved around, a program where the design is clear, the contractor delivery method is clear, the operator pre-opening guidelines are made clear in that one program, allows everyone to be involved in that, where that's one way of seeing power of collaboration. In terms of technology, I think if we just break up a building or a development or a hotel, it's materials being put together to deliver the final product. And it doesn't really have to involve the technology in terms of the material changing. It's more into how do you get it delivered within the quality standards over time and delivering it quickly. So the technology perhaps would lie into the manufacturing lines, with perhaps and how do you get it done quicker? How do you deliver certain materials on site where the factory doesn't have to be 1,000 kilometers away? A mobile factory to be done next to a large site where some of these materials can be produced, prefabricated, precasted, and being able to deliver it on site. Also to consider things related to sustainability and carbon footprint. It's not about producing something somewhere else and then transporting it, which would cost you, 2 or 3 folds the cost of doing it conventionally. It's realizing the technology that we could all benefit from while maintaining, constraints or KPIs related to either time, cost, and most importantly, quality.
Absolutely. Guys, there's a bunch more questions, but I think we're pretty much out of time. The questions are really, really interesting. The answers are even more so. Collaboration is clearly essential. Collaboration in the future tech, in the modular space is very, very important. And I'd just like to thank you all for your time. And hopefully you find that interesting, guys. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.